Hi everyone! Today's characters had a really tough financial situation and what they found at the curbside will change everything for them. So let's read the story and see what happens there. Caleb Rice didn't pull over because he loves curbside finds. He pulled over because his phone had just lit up with a pharmacy text that said, "Refill declined, payment needed." He was 31, a carpenter in Fort Collins, Colorado, and his life was hanging by the same thin thread a lot of young families live on. One sick kid, one late mortgage, one busted car, and suddenly you are not getting by anymore, you are falling. His wife Danny was pregnant, the kind of tired that sits behind her eyes all day. Their son Owen needed breathing meds that couldn't wait for payday, and their mortgage was already in danger zone. They'd helped their own parents through medical messes, so there was no inheritance, no cushion, no one to call for rescue. That's why Caleb's hands were steady at work and shaking in the truck. He wasn't hunting treasure, he was trying to keep a roof and an inhaler in the same months. On the way to pick Danny up from her nanny job, Caleb cut through a quiet neighborhood near a green belt. Nice homes, not mansions. That's where he saw it. Two big electronics boxes beside a curbside trash can, taped shut, like someone had packed them carefully. He thought stupidly that maybe there was a TV inside, something he could flip for quick cash. He stopped, checked the first box, and found nothing but packing paper. He checked the second, still empty, and felt his stomach drop with that familiar shame of hoping. Then Danny walked up and lifted the second box like she was going to flatten it. The bottom clunked, not cardboard clunk, heavy metal clunk. She froze, stared inside, and whispered, "Caleb, look." Behind the empty packaging were three clear 5-gallon water jugs, kept tight, each one filled to the neck with coins, silver flashes, dull gold tones, dark bronze, so many that the plastic looked stressed from the weight. It wasn't a jar of pennies. It looked like someone had poured a lifetime into portable containers and dumped them like trash. They stood there too long, both of them scanning the street for cameras, for a ring doorbell, for a neighbor stepping out to yell, "That's mine." A couple walked a dog. Nobody looked twice. Caleb asked one passerby, casual, "Do you know if someone's moving out?" The guy shrugged and said, "People leave free piles all the time." That was it. No story, no owner, just the normal American not my business tone that leaves you alone with your choices. Caleb loaded the jugs into the trunk, not because it felt right, because it felt necessary. He could already hear the people who'd judge him, but those people weren't the ones holding a wheezing child at 2 a.m. Danny didn't stop him. She just kept one hand on her belly like she was holding the future in place, while Caleb did something he never pictured himself doing. At home, they didn't pour everything out like kids. They opened one jug on a tarp and saw the mix: common coins, older coins, and a small close pouch tucked deep inside with heavier pieces that looked deliberately saved. Danny's voice shook when she said, "What if this was hidden?" Caleb didn't answer. He couldn't, because the find didn't feel like luck anymore. It felt like a mistake that universe made in their favor, and mistakes like that usually belong to someone else. They didn't touch the other two jugs that night. Caleb capped the first one back up and slid all three into the darkest corner of the garage like they were a live animal. Danny sat at the kitchen table with her hand on her belly, staring at the pharmacy text on Caleb's phone like it was a countdown clock. "We can pay the refill tomorrow," Caleb said, trying to sound steady. Danny nodded, but her eyes said the truth. If this went wrong, they didn't have a backup plan. The next morning, Caleb took a small sample, just a handful of the older-looking coins and one heavier piece from the closed pouch, to a coin shop across town. He picked a place that looked clean and quiet, run by an older guy behind thick glass, the kind of shop where people bring inheritances, not trouble. The owner weighed 2 coins, flipped one under a magnifier, and went still, not excited, not impressed. "Careful, where did you get these?" he asked, like the question mattered more than the metal. Caleb gave the safest lie he could manage. "Family jar, we're behind on bills." The owner nodded slowly, then asked for Caleb's driver license for the record. Caleb hesitated, but he needed the cash, and in America the ID request doesn't sound strange when you're desperate. He handed it over. The owner wrote down his info, made a copy, and paid him a fair amount for the small batch. As Caleb walked out, relief hit first, real relief, the kind that feels like oxygen. Then the second feeling hit. Why did the owner get so quiet the moment he saw the coins? Caleb paid the pharmacy on the way home. That refill bag in his hand felt like a trophy and a warning at the same time. By late afternoon, the warning showed up. Not as a chase, not as a sirens, as something smaller and more believable. A business card was tucked into the crack of their front door frame, like someone left it with 2 fingers. Cash for coins, we come to you. No company name, just a number and the first name written in pen. Wins. Danny found it first and her face drained. How would anyone know? She whispered. Caleb's phone rang 10 minutes later, a known number. He didn't answer, it rang again. Then a text came through. Heard you have old coins? I can beat any shop, easy deal. Danny stared at the screen like it had teeth. That wasn't random advertising, that was someone who knew Caleb had already sold. And suddenly the magic had a logical shape, the coin shop. The ID copy, the record. If the owner was connected to local buyers or if he simply talked too much, Caleb's name, address, and phone were now floating around like bait. That night, a man in a reflective vest knocked on their door just after sunset, not aggressive, not loud. The kind of guy who could say he was working utilities if anyone asked. He smiled friendly and said, "Evening, you folks see any heavy containers left out on the curb yesterday? Some people have been grabbing stuff that isn't trash." His eyes moved past Caleb's shoulder like he was looking for a garage door seam, a shape, a clue. Caleb didn't slam the door, he didn't confess, he played dumb. "No idea," he said. "We weren't home." The man's smile held, but his tone tightened. "If you hear anything," he said, "it'd be smart to pass it along. Those things can cause problems." Then he left without another word, slow and calm, like he wasn't worried because he'd already confirmed enough. After the door shut, Danny started shaking, not from fear of jail, from fear of losing the one chance they'd been handed. "We can't keep doing this," she whispered. "We can't sell piece by piece forever." Caleb looked at the closed garage door and felt the moral line bending under real life. They could report it and risk getting swallowed by a system that might freeze everything until it's sorted, or they could finish this quietly, take the win, and protect their family. Caleb made the hard call. "We cash out enough to save us," he said. Then we stop. No greed, no bragging, just survival. And as he said it, his phone buzzed again with a new message from Vince. "Tomorrow my guy can pick up, don't make it complicated." Caleb didn't answer Vince. He stared at the text until the screen went dark, then looked at Danny and said the one sentence that finally made their fear useful. "If he is rushing us, he is trying to steal the price." They were done being pushed, they were behind on everything, yes, but they weren't stupid. They took the jugs out of the garage before sunrise and moved them somewhere no stranger could check by knocking on a door. Then Caleb drove to a different coin dealer 2 towns over, not to sell everything, just to get one clean fact. What was this really worth? The dealer didn't hype it up. He weighed a few pieces, checked dates, and gave Caleb a number wrench that made him swallow hard. The older coins and silver rounds were real value, and the gold-toned pieces weren't all junk either. If they sold smart, it wasn't gas money, it was life money. That same day, Caleb went back to the first coin shop, calm, polite, and asked, "Did you give my info to anyone?" The owner's face tightened to half a second before he said, "Everybody talks, it's small town." There wasn't a confession, but it was enough. Caleb walked out knowing the lick had a name and a place, and he felt the anger rise. Then he shouted down. Anger wouldn't pay Owen's meds. Anger wouldn't protect Danny and the baby. They finished the job the only way, that kept control in their hands. No parking lot meetups, no my guy can pick up. They sold through 2 reputable dealers, and 1 weekend coin show where tables had receipts and witnesses everywhere. They didn't dump the whole stash at once, but they moved fast enough that Vince couldn't choke them with pressure. Every time Caleb's phone buzzed, he ignored it. When the man in the reflective vest came back to their street and asked the same heavy containers question, Caleb smiled and said, "Try the neighborhood app, people take free stuff all the time." The man's eyes stayed cold, but he laughed again, because there's nothing he can do when you won't play his game. The shock hit a week later, and it was the kind that makes your knees weak in the best way. After fees and smart sailing, the total they cleared was just under $80,000. Caleb and Danny sat at the kitchen table, the same table where they used to argue about which bill to skip, and they both went quiet. Not because it was funny, because it was finally over. They paid the mortgage areas in 1 click, they cleared the medical balance that had been hanging over Owen like a storm cloud, they fixed the van properly instead of hoping it holds, and they put enough aside that baby's first year wouldn't be a constant panic. Vince texted once last time, "Last chance." Caleb never replied. A month later, the first coin shop suddenly had a for lease sign in the window. Maybe it was unrelated, maybe it wasn't. Caleb didn't chase the story. He didn't need revenge, he needed peace. By early summer, Danny's pregnancy felt lighter, not physically but emotionally. Owen had his medicine on schedule, no bargaining, no delays. And on Saturday, they did something that felt almost illegal in their old life. They took a day off. They drove up to the foothills toward Estate Park, windows down, snack in the backseat, the Rockies rising ahead like proof that life can still be white. Owen fell asleep on the ride home with his mouth open, breathing easy. Danny held Caleb's hand and said, "We're going to be okay," like she finally believed it. Caleb never told anyone the full story. He just remembered the lesson: the world sometimes drops a chance at your feet, and there are always people ready to take it from you. They didn't win because they were lucky, they won because they stayed quiet, moved smart, and chose their family over fear. And for the first time in years, tomorrow didn't sound like a threat. So this is the story. I hope you guys liked it, and please share your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about the story? Maybe share your own. And if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and see you the next time.